Hey everybody. Today we're going to do a watercolor project, but first I wanted to show you my little portable setup that I take when I'm painting outdoors. It's this little board that you can put magnets on. I like these flat clips because they don't damage my paper. They're padded underneath. I have magnetic pencil and brush holders that keep my pencil and my brush on the board. And then I just have a strong magnet underneath this little tin of travel watercolors. So it's just, your regular ultra strong magnet. And this makes it super easy to paint on the go. So I'll share links to all of those in the description. But today I wanted to show you a moonlit watercolor with some little tips for painting nighttime scenes. And you'll notice throughout this video that I'm actually using my regular, I can't remember if this is a 2 or a 4, but my normal small detailed paintbrush, even though I'm going to be painting a big sky. So you'll see how that goes. So I'm painting this adorable little raccoon. And this is going to be kind of monochrome, as raccoons tend to be, but you can still get a lot of tonal difference with just applying a little bit more pigment. And I am speeding this up. I'm not painting this fast. But you'll want to keep the top of the raccoon and the top of the log a little bit lighter. We're going to put some moonlight on top of them because I'm going to add a little moon. So you want to concentrate your darker colors towards the bottom of the animal where they wouldn't be lit up. And I'm adding a little shading inside his eye again to give that pop of light where you see the moon and a little bit of shadow underneath. Now he's really cute and easy to paint, like I said, because he's monochrome. So you don't have to spend too much time doing detailed painting. And then same here, I'm going to try to leave the top of the log a lot lighter than the bottom because that's where the light's going to hit it. But I am going to add a little shadow under the raccoon, just because that would naturally happen, especially if you have a strong light source coming from the top left. So I'll add that under his little feetsies. Even though this is a pretty detailed kind of storybook style image, which I think is so sweet, it's very, very easy to paint. So don't get too caught up in the details. This is an easy scene. Now I'm adding water all the way down to the bottom of the page so that I can drop in a different color of green, just kind of a more neutral green than that light green that I had. And now I'm going to work on just sketching out my moon. And this doesn't have to be perfect. Nothing is, and certainly watercolor isn't. But I just wanted to leave a little dry space for the moon. And then I'm just adding a lot of water and a little bit of pigment all around the rest of the scene. I want my paper to be as wet as possible so that I can drop darker and darker colors into this sky. So I'll get the water right up close to the raccoon, but you don't want to touch him because you don't want the blue to bleed in to the area that you've already painted. So if yours is still wet, just make sure you dry it. Now I'm spraying the back of my paper off camera to stop it from curling. And I'm just adding darker and darker color. And as you can see, it does not have to be smooth at all. So you can have some blended areas. You can have some areas that aren't as blended. This is a night sky, so I'm not going for perfectly blended. I am going for deep dark blue at the bottom and a little lighter blue around the moon, as would be the natural case if you saw light coming out from the moon. So as I get closer to the moon, I just add more water. And then I add more pigment everywhere else to make this a little bit darker. And then I'll go in with some details around the raccoon, get a little bit closer to him. I will be adding some blue onto the raccoon himself because that is how I'm getting the moonlight look onto him. So he'll have a little blue glow around, like on his face, kind of, just to show you that that light is hitting him. So I'll come back in, go around the moon again. This doesn't have to be perfect. I'm not worried about getting a perfect circle. If you wanted to get a perfect circle, my recommendation would be to mask it. That's the best way to get a perfect shape in there. So I'll just swipe around it with my brush and finish off, make sure I finish off the edges. I noticed there were some little white pieces at the edge of my watercolor paper. So I wanted to make sure that I got those fixed. And I realized that his back leg and the inside of his arm needed to be a little bit darker. So I added just a little bit more of that gray. There, I'm adding just a little bit of shading to his eye. This is the point where you can go put in any detail work that you want. And again, just try not to mix the blue and the gray unintentionally. So I want to make sure I don't have any little white spots next to him. And then I'm going to really water down the blue and paint it onto the top of the raccoon so that light starts cascading down his body. But really, really pale. Keep this part as pale as you can. You just want to give the hint that that light is touching him. So I'm adding it to any part where the light might be shining on him. Just very, very pale blue. So right there on the top of his tail is another area. And I've slowed this part down so you can see how this goes. You can also put some on the log if you'd like, and anywhere you want to on the grass. Now at this point, I just cut kind of a rough piece of paper. It doesn't have to be exactly the outline of the raccoon. And I covered him up and I spattered my white drafting ink all over it to give the look of stars. Thanks so much for watching.